Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Hawksnest here, back with another COD mobile video. So in today's video, we're going to be doing episode 3 of the best attachment series. And as you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, we will be talking about the Quickdraw attachment. And then we're also going to be talking about the Agile perk, as that perk is very similar to the Quickdraw attachment. And a lot of people get really confused on how the two interact, or if they're the same, if they're different, like things like that. We're going to kind of talk about a little bit more. So first off, with the Quickdraw attachment, it is a attachment that you can use on SMGs, LMGs, and assault rifles. The basics of what the attachment does is it basically makes your gun scope in faster. And this is included with no matter what scope you have, whether it's the tactical scope, the red dot, the hollow, or just the iron sights. Whereas Agile will only increase your ADS, which is aim down sights, time, if you start aiming down sights when you're sprinting. So this attachment was actually very popular in Season 1, and the reason was because in Season 1, you weren't actually able to shoot your gun unless you were hip firing or your gun was fully scoped in. You couldn't shoot while your gun was lifting up and scoping in and actually like ADSing. That animation, you just couldn't shoot while that was happening. So obviously, if your gun takes a long time to scope in, there's going to be a long time that you're not able to shoot. So by decreasing your ADS time, you were basically allowing yourself to shoot more often. But in Season 2, they changed it, so now your gun can actually shoot while it's ADSing, so while it's switching from hip fire to ADS, you can actually shoot during that period. So now the question becomes, is this attachment still relevant? Is it something that you should use? What guns should you use it on? Things like that. And how much benefit is it actually going to have if you do use it? But this feature of being able to shoot while your gun is like scoping in is only accessible if you have the hip fire setting checked on your weapons. If you still use the ADS setting on your guns, you're not going to be able to shoot in between the transition. You'll only be able to shoot once you're fully scoped in or if you're hip firing. So if you're a player that uses the ADS features, which you can see on the screen right now what setting I'm talking about, that is when Quickdraw kind of becomes the most beneficial because it'll decrease the time that it takes your gun to scope in. So I spent basically all day testing the attachment and testing Agile and basically just seeing how they interact and stuff like that. And I was able to get some numbers, and we're going to go ahead and delve into that so you guys can see exactly how this works. Before I actually show you the numbers, I don't want you guys to get really confused because it looks confusing, but if I explain really quickly what you're about to see, as soon as I show it to you, you're going to be like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. So the way I did the testing is I tested 3 different guns. I tested the S36, the Type 25, and the MSMC. Now each gun, it took a long time to test each gun, and literally it took a couple hours for just those 3, so I wasn't able to do it for every single gun in the game. But this will give us a really good idea of the LMGs, the ARs, and the SMGs by obviously the S36, Type 25, and MSMC. So when I actually show you the numbers, on the left side, you're going to see the word still, and on the right side, you're going to see the word running. And the numbers below still are going to tell you the time that it takes to ADS when you're standing still or when you're walking. And then on the right where it says running, you're going to see the ADS times when you're actually running, like when you are running and then you press the aim button or whatever. And then it'll show the numbers of how long it takes, and it's in milliseconds, so it'll say like 500 ms, which means 500 milliseconds, which might not mean very much to you, but when you see the numbers next to it, you'll be like, oh, okay, this makes sense. So let's go ahead and look at the first gun, which is going to be the S36, which is basically a representation of LMGs. I also want to make a quick interjection to follow my Twitter. You can see the @ on the screen because I post things like what you're seeing on the screen. So if you want to see stuff like that and see giveaways, make sure to follow my Twitter. But anyway, let's go on with the video. Alright, so here's the numbers, and I also want to let you guys know that these numbers are based on the iron sights of the S36, and I actually tested the red dot, hollow sight, and tactical scope and found out that these scopes actually do take a little bit longer to scope in with, although the difference isn't that big. And near the end of the video, I'm going to reference that and actually let you guys know like how big of a difference it is, but just kind of forget about that for now and just know that these numbers are in reference to the iron sights. Alright, so on the left we have still, and once again this is if you're standing still or you're walking and then you scope in, and you're going to get a ADS speed of 400 milliseconds if you don't have Quickdraw or Agile, and then 300 milliseconds with Quickdraw, and then 400 milliseconds with Agile. So what you probably noticed from that is that Agile doesn't actually affect your scope in time unless you're running, which I said before, but clearly Quickdraw does by a decent amount, honestly. From 400 milliseconds to 300 milliseconds is a pretty big difference. And then if you have both Agile and Quickdraw, your ADS speed is going to be 300 milliseconds, which is the same as just having a Quickdraw. So as you can tell, the only thing that benefits your ADS speed when you're walking or standing still is Quickdraw. But now if we go ahead and look at the side that says running, you can tell that the ADS speed is 500 milliseconds with no Quickdraw or Agile, goes down to 400 if you have a quick draw, and then it goes down to 433 if you have agile. So what you can tell is that quick draw is actually still better than agile. So if you only could pick one, clearly quick draw would be better. But then if you have both, you can go all the way down to 333 milliseconds when you're running, which is almost the exact same as if you have both of the attachments and you're standing still, which is pretty crazy. So if you're trying to run and gun a lot with the LMG, clearly having quick draw and agile will benefit you. But yeah, so that is the LMGs or the S36. So now let's go ahead and look at the ARs. All right, so now we're looking at the Type 25, and on the left, as you can see, it's 225 milliseconds for none, and then it goes 175, and then 225, 175, and then on the moving side, it goes 308, 258, 238, and 183 milliseconds. So as you can tell, when you have both quick draw and agile, your ADS speed is going to be almost cut in half with an an AR if you are running around a lot. And then if you are wondering how these numbers compare to the LMG, if you kind of forgot what the LMG numbers look like, we'll go ahead and flash the LMG numbers up real quick, just so you can kind of compare. And as you can tell, the LMGs scope in quite a bit slower. So one thing you can actually tell is that the LMGs with quick draw and agile scope in almost the exact same time when you're running around as a Type 25 with no attachments. Okay, so that is it for the ARs or the Type 25. So now let's go ahead and look at the SMGs. All right, so now we're looking at the SMGs, or at least the MSMC, and you can see the numbers on your screen. We've already explained ARs and LMGs, so I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot, but you're able to see the numbers on your screen right now and how the different attachments or perks, or I guess just quick draw and agile, how they affect your ADS speed. Okay, so this next section we're actually going to breeze through. So basically what you're looking at right now is how much faster you're going to ADS with the given attachment or perk. So for example, we're looking at the MSMC or SMGs right now. If you have a quick draw and you're standing still, you're going to aim in 1.3 times as fast as if you didn't have a quick draw. And then if you have agile, you're not going to aim anymore. It's going to be 1 times, which is the exact same. And then if you have both, it's 1.37. And then if you look on the running side, if you have both agile and quick draw, you're going to scope in 1.63 times as fast. So once again, this is the SMG numbers. Go ahead and pause right now if you want to absorb this, because we're going to go ahead and look at the ARs in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, now you can see the ARs, and as you can tell, there is quite a bit of benefit when you're actually running and you have both agile and quick draw. You're going to get 1.6 times as fast of a ADS speed. All right, and you guys can pause if you want, but we're going to go ahead and switch over to LMG in 3, 2, 1, and now. And as you guys can see all the numbers here, you can tell that the LMGs do get a decent amount of benefit. And I do want to note that the fact that the LMGs scope in so slow that even though it's 1.5, which isn't as fast as an AR, like it's not as much time speed, it's a lot of milliseconds that come off of your ADS speed. To be exact, if you don't have any attachments and you're trying to ADS while running, you're going to take 500 milliseconds. But if you have both agile and quick draw, you're going to go down to 333 milliseconds. All right, so that is pretty much it for comparing the ADS speeds and the things that change ADS speeds. I do want to really quickly reference sights though. So I tested these sights, and it turns out that the sights are slightly slower. In terms of the S36, I only tested the S36 because it would take forever to do the sights on all the guns and everything. But on your screen right now, you can see the numbers on the S36 with sights, and as you can tell, they are slightly higher. We'll also put it side by side to a S36 with iron sights. And then once again, as you can tell, there is a decent difference. So technically speaking, if you want to scope in as fast as you possibly can, you should have on agile, quick draw, and a iron sights. But once again, because of the season 2 change where you can shoot while your gun is scoping in, I don't recommend it that much. The only downside of shooting while your gun is scoping in is you won't get that accuracy that you get when your gun is actually scoped in until it is fully scoped in. So it kind of depends, honestly. Like, hipfire isn't super inaccurate in this game, so I think you're fine if you're hipfiring and like switching and stuff. It's only at longer distances where hipfire kind of becomes a little bit worse. So, but even then, if you're taking a long range fight, you should kind of be pre-aiming at people, which means you already scope in because you know someone's going to be in that spot. The only time you really aren't pre-aiming or scoping in at someone is if they're up close, and at that point you're honestly fine because you can just hipfire. So my final conclusion on whether or not the quick draw attachment is worth it, I say if you use the ADS feature, it is worth it. If you don't use it, I don't think it's personally worth it unless you're running LMGs, in which case I could totally understand using the attachment. But I think the ARs and the SMGs scope in fast enough already that using the quick draw attachment is not worth it. And then agile, I don't think is worth it either unless you're using LMGs. But at the same time, if you look at all the perks here, honestly, there's not really any good ones in the red section. I think agile is going to be one of your best. If you're going for nukes and you just generally like don't want to die very often, flak jacket works. It doesn't like, It's not going to come in handy too often, but when it does come in handy, it really is clutch, because then it prevents you from dying, which, you know, could save your nuke or your VTOL or whatever you're going for. And then Skulker, I think, is kind of useless. Persistence is like, I think is pretty useless. Fast Recover is decent, and then Lightweight is pretty good. If you're running an LMG, Lightweight is pretty good, honestly. Like, I don't know. I might make a video on this in the future. Personally, if I'm using an LMG, I prefer Lightweight over Agile. But again, if you do use the ADS feature, Agile probably would come in more handy. Okay, I do want to give a shout out to our channel members, and especially our Ultimate fans and our level 9 million plus member, which is Everchill, and then obviously our Ultimate fans, CBK Killer and Boy Scout 77 Twitter. And then thank you to our mega fans as well, which you can see on the screen. If you guys do want to join the channel as a member and have your name at the end of every video and see other really cool benefits like you can see on the screen right now, you can go ahead and press the link down in the description or the join button, which is right next to the subscribe button. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to drop a like and a sub if you do want to see content like this in the future, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.